You know, the thesis for my entire channel is the idea that TTRPGs are a vastly underutilized form of storytelling. Books allow you to create an entire world in your mind by reading words off a page that the author has already created. Movies allow you to see the incredible and spectacular acting performances and special effects. Plays allow you to experience a mix of the two where you fill in the gaps with your imagination, but allow actors on a stage to play out in real time while watching the set move around them. Storytelling is fascinating, and the different mediums of which you tell stories are incredible. But I truly do believe TTRPGs are unique. The largest problem with them is they are storytelling that only happens to a very small group of people. One of my favorite things about my comments is when people come and tell me stories about their games, tell me what happened, tell me about their characters. I find it so fun, but I also know that I'm losing out on a lot of what actually happened. How many times have you tried to tell somebody who doesn't play a TTRPG, or even somebody who does play a TTRPG, a story from your campaign, and you just felt like you didn't communicate it properly? You didn't communicate the emotions, the amazing things that happen, the excitement around the dice rolls. Sometimes it can feel a lot like trying to explain a dream to somebody. Yeah, it meant something to you, but to them, it's just random words, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense of what you're saying. Enter the legend of Vox Machina.
Gods above us. Dragons attacking together.
Oh, I find this so fascinating because it is one of the few examples we have of being able to see a TTRPG campaign translated into a different medium and realistically taking in the challenges that go along with that. See, for those of you who have seen Critical Role Campaign 1, and for those of you who have seen The Legend of Vox Machina, you know that they're not one for one. They had to make some changes and some allowances in order to make the story work. And what's really fun about that is I have yet to see anybody complain about it. I mean, seriously, how many times do we see a video game adapted into a movie, and the most common complaint we see absolutely everywhere is, God, it just wasn't faithful to the original. This was done better in this, or this was done better in this. It even happens when books are adapted to movies.
Yeah. I think I am the son of Poseidon.
But I haven't seen any of that discourse around this show. Now, do I believe that there has been no discourse? Of course not. Just because I haven't seen it, somebody's complained out there, right? Like, obviously that's going to occur. Critical Role has a very passionate fan base, and some people are going to be upset that their moments weren't portrayed in the ways that they wanted, but still, I've seen very little outcry about it. Another great example of this occurring is actually The Last of Us. Right now, that show is really big and super popular. The actors in it do incredible, the set design is amazing, honestly just an A-tier show. Does it follow exactly what happened in the game? No. And honestly, I think these two, Legend of Vox Machina and The Last of Us, are very similar in the struggle that they have. Both of them have a situation where they are trying to adapt a game where people had their own agency, their own decisions, game mechanics in the way that then had to translate into a show. However, I think it is very different because The Last of Us had to translate a story that hundreds of thousands of millions of people got to play over the course of their own decision making. They got to decide what happened, they got to choose how the game played out, and while yes, the general story beats are the same, they're trying to adapt a game that everybody's had their own unique experience with. Taking Legend of Vox Machina, however, it is trying to translate a game where everybody was playing together, and here's where it gets really interesting for me. Critical Role is a live streamed game. A lot of people got to see these in the moment, but despite that, Critical Role understood. The entire team around The Legend of Vox Machina understood. They could not keep the game as it was. What they needed to do was translate the emotions of what occurred. I recently released a video talking about the very end of the Vox Machina campaign, and it is probably one of my most emotional videos to date. And in that, I talk specifically about the fact that I had genuine emotions, that I felt emotions, I knew what was going on. I didn't remember the rules. I didn't remember the dice rolls. I remembered the emotions it made me feel. And so when we look at The Legend of Vox Machina, we see a lot of moments like this. One of these moments being when Grog accidentally stabs Pike. In the game, it did not happen this way. In fact, it was much less dramatic.
You, having no tether, are just drifting away from the portal and seeing it just disappearing slowly away from you. What are you gonna do?
Can I take my chain of returning and attach it to Craven Edge and throw it through the doorway that I see?
You can. Go ahead and roll. Roll for an attack.
Oh my god.
Should have had a breakfast.
23.
23. You fling it through, and it catches something. You feel it, it's taut. You start pulling your way in, pulling your way in, pulling your way in. Go ahead and roll damage.
It's Pike. It's Pike.
Oh.
God. It's fine.
Gotta be Pike, right?
Just gotta
Damage. Oh, damage. Sorry, damage. I rolled the wrong thing. Please don't let it be Pike. 9.
Make next week's episode so uncomfortable.
14 and
I'm so excited.
What's your 2d6 necrotic?
20,
Yep, plus 2d6 necrotic damage.
27. 30.
30 points of damage. Okay, you pull the chain and you make your way to the portal. You put your hands out and pull through. And as you do, the chain in your hand, you look and you can see now, grasping onto the edge of the wall, you see Pike, sweat dripping down her face as Craven Edge has embedded itself into her abdomen. She's holding it, and she just looks at you with a gritted face and she goes, "It's okay, Grog.
I'm gonna
You're
cry.
back. That's all that matters."
That's the saddest thing ever.
But nonetheless, everybody was very upset at the fact that Grog had accidentally hurt Pike, despite the fact that it was under extremely different circumstances. The writing team behind the show, however, understood the importance was not in how it happened, but the fact that it did happen. They also understood that this was a chance to underline the story that Grog had been going through the entire story. They understood that this was a way to play into things, and here's where I'm trying to go with this. The most fascinating thing to me is TTRPG campaigns are disconnected. They are chaotic. They are made with decisions happening in the moment based off random dice rolls. Everything about them is not connected. But in a story, there needs to be a cohesive narrative. That's the understanding of how it works when we translate it into a different medium. And so, here's the main thesis of what I'm trying to get to. The whole point of what I'm trying to explain. I think it is absolutely fantastic that the Legend of Vox Machina understood they needed to translate the important emotional throughbeat, not what else happened in their TTRPG campaign. Because the emotions are why we care about TTRPGs in the first place. When they went through the process of animating Vex's death scene and the resurrection that came from that, they deviated from how it actually happened in the story, because what actually happened, the dice rolls that occurred, the mechanics were not important. What was important was that we cared for this character. We cared that there was this emotional through line, that Vax came up and saw his sister dead in the one moment he decided to leave her side.
Take me instead, you raping bitch!
And even more so, they decided to spend this time fleshing out the backstory of these two, making sure that we understood why this was an important moment. In the campaign itself, everybody watching felt this moment. They felt the emotion, they felt the impact. But that was because they've been watching hours and hours up until this point. When translating this into a show, you don't have that luxury. And so they made sure to make the audience feel the emotions that everybody felt during the live play. And that's why I think this whole thing is just so fascinating to me. Because TTRPGs, in my mind, are the absolute best storytelling method for transferring and telling emotional, deep storytelling. But it's so hard to translate it anywhere else than outside the table that's currently experiencing it. And so watching The Legend of Vox Machina find a way to do this is just thrilling to me and absolutely exciting. I think it is one of the most exciting things possible, and I really hope to see other types of media tell TTRPG stories. Is it important that TTRPG stories get told in other media? No, not necessarily. The stories at our table are for us. But being able to experience that emotion with other people is, like I said in one of my last videos, the definition of being human, connecting with others, at least for me. So I really hope to see more of this, and I cannot wait to watch the next season. And honestly, just kudos to everybody who's making that show, because I think it is so well done, amazingly animated, and the writing is incredible. And I cannot wait to see more.